So understanding MLS's contract rules and transfer rules and player status stuff is super. It's Hello, my friends. Welcome back in. It's episode 3 of our DC United save, and well, today's the day. We're gonna try and explain why. Okay. Some positive things before we hop into this mess right here. Shout out, we have a new patron on the channel. I'm gonna try and create a graphic if I can remember to do that, to throw up. They go, new patron on the channel. We're on the march to 40. We started off with 20. We're now at 21, and it's Brent Nice, NYCZ, or is it Niz? Or if you're a Dota 2 fan, is it Nix? Because anyway, if you don't know what that means, it's a hero you can play in Dota 2. Anyway, Brent, thank you for joining the patronage. Means a ton. Thank you for that. I will get your name added to the credits at the end of the month. I try and do that at the end of every month. Like if, some of your patronage goes through, it's like, okay, for September, here are the people that are supporting me. So if you want to be like Brent and all the other amazing patrons that are supporting the channel, allowing me to buy fancier equipment and stuff to do more skits, that stuff is coming in September and October, especially with the launch of FM19. So you want to stick around. That having been said, we are up to 2,829 subscribers as of the time I'm doing this video. We have added in August 194 subscribers, or 179 subscribers, and 94 have come in the last week. So thank you. If you're a new subscriber, why don't you say hi in the chat, I'm not on Twitch now, am I? In the comments, say, hey, I'm a new subscriber. Here's how I found you. Because I'm always curious. Like, there's been a bunch where I'm like, I don't know where they're coming from. Is it because of DC United? Is it because of the 8 Kids and 5 Continents save? I would love to hear from you. And obviously, you can also check out the Discord, which the description has a link to the community chat that we got going on there. And I think I've delayed us enough, my friends. I'm gonna try and explain. And there may be things that as I'm explaining this, you're going, nope, that's not how it works. This is my understanding as of right now. I've played, a bunch of games now in the actual save. We're gonna play the Columbus Crew today at the second half of the episode, I guess, not the end, because it's a game. But let's talk about MLS. So, first thing that I think is going to be beneficial to understanding this, that was really confusing to me based off of the thing that shows up in your inbox, is your key player, first team, rotation, backup, hot prospect, youngster contracts. That still applies. And how I visualize this is that is the club's relationship with the player. It's like telling Wayne Rooney, because we've had some people saying, go add Wayne Rooney. In the game, you start off with $900,000 in transfer budget. I'm not going to go get Wayne Rooney because, well, I'd have to restart the save at this point, and we're not going to do that. So apologies. We'll have to see how DC United will get along an entire season without Wayne Rooney. But that the like player status stuff is your relationship with the player. Then there is how that player's relationship with the club impacts the club's relationship with the MLS salary cap. Yeah, that's super clear, I'm sure. So in MLS, there are 2 types of money to worry about, okay? So you've got wage budget, which is how much your team as an organization can afford, just like in the rest of Football Manager and the rest of the world. Right? So every save you play, you've got a wage budget. The board says you can spend this much, and you can adjust your transfer budget, drops it to the wage budget, and so on and so forth. You still worry about that with MLS. That is still a thing. It's the organization's budget to pay their players. The second thing, though, and this is where it gets super weird, unless you're like a big fan of the NFL and you understand salary, or NBA or any other American sport, is a salary cap. Okay, so MLS limits how much you can spend as an organization so you can't Real Madrid it. Okay, so they are trying to, again, like I said in the previous episode, MLS is all about parity. American sports are about parity. We want the Cleveland Browns that play in the NFL and have been awful forever to have a chance to get the top draft pick, bring in better players, and win the Super Bowl next year. Same thing with MLS. So that's where the salary cap comes in, so that your top teams can't just keep spending and spending and spending and spending and spending and outspending everybody like a Real Madrid or a Liverpool or a Man City would do, right? So that's where this salary cap comes in. Okay, so that in and of itself sounds pretty simple. Like, hey, you can, if it was as simple as this, which it's not, so bear with me, but I'm just trying to give you an example of how you might be thinking this is going to work and then how it actually works, okay? So you would think, they say you can spend $78,000 a week on your squad. Okay, well that means I could pay, just as an example, my entire squad 0 and one player $78,000 a week. That's not how it works, because there's, based on the contract they sign, there is a minimum amount they have to be paid. There's the ability to pay above the amount that hits the salary cap. Okay. So, like, you might pay a player like Paul Urilla on DC United. We're paying him $20,000 a week, but his impact is, I want to say, like 9,700 and something, right? So that the 20,000 doesn't hit the cap, because obviously if our cap is 78 grand, you're paying Paul Urilla 20 grand and the Acosta guy 11 grand. Well, that's 31 of your 78 grand. But the wage budget that you're paying them isn't the same as their salary cap impact. Oh my goodness, that's clear as mud, I am sure. Okay, so depending on what kind of MLS contract you offer a player, it can change how their wage impacts the salary cap. Therefore, it may not be a direct, pay them $3,000, it impacts your salary cap $3,000, based on the MLS contract that you're offering them. So, right. And that's also how, like, our wage budget is, I think it's like $115,000, I don't have it pulled up right now, $115,000 a week, but the salary cap is 78 grand. That's because we are paying some players more than what it is costing us from a cap standpoint. All right. So here's what that means, right? The first thing I find very confusing from Football Manager is it says you may sign a maximum of 2 designated players. No. Look, like, if the second bullet list or item on that list is you can have a maximum of 3 designated players. But the thing is, you may have 2 that are over the age of 20. That's this other part, right? However, a designated player right here, if you can, my finger's going to disappear. Or, however, a designated player 20 years or younger. So essentially, you can have 2 over 20 and then 1 20 or younger. Okay? So again, let's take Paul Urilla, right? He is a designated player. I thought he was a young designated player, but I think he's just a designated player. He's the only one. Yes, we have 1. We're paying him $20,000 a week. These players are typically of higher stature, like a Wayne Rooney, and greater quality than the rest of the squad. And as such, their contribution towards the salary cap will be equal to the maximum senior salary of $9,614 a week. So let's break that part down. MLS says you may pay a player, the maximum you can pay them is $9,614 a week on a senior salary contract, unless they're a designated player, and then you can pay them more. And whatever you paid them more, that value, right? Let's just say it's $10,614 a week. That $1,000 extra a week does not hit your salary cap. Okay, so that's how you can go get those big players like a Zlatan and a Wayne Rooney and Bastian Schweinsteiger to come play for you and pay them above $9,614 a week. But their impact on your salary cap is only equal to the maximum senior salary. But your wage budget hit is whatever you're paying them. Okay, hopefully that makes sense. If the player signed during the summer transfer window, so it's essentially a half of a season, right? You get a discount on their salary cap impact for the current season, right? For the next season, they're playing the full season. So it hits your full salary cap, is my understanding. I've not gone to a second season, but that makes sense. So if you bring them in during the summer, that would kind of not be fair, right? Like, you're trying to adjust your salary, you're like moving players around to keep under the salary cap, but you're only going to have the player for half the season, you get a discount. Okay. A designated player 20 years or younger, so a young designated player, so like your hot prospect that you like, your Christian Pulisic, right? 19, bringing him in, only counts as $2,900 a week against the club's salary budget. So again, you could pay Christian Pulisic $10,000 a week, as long as it fits within your board is happy with that, right? And you would only have a cap hit of $2,900 towards that $78,000. Okay? If they're 21 to 23, the salary cap impact, instead of being that 96.14, right, which was that maximum cap, my green screen looks kind of funky right there. Let me fix that. Okay, so instead of it being the maximum senior salary of $9,614, it's either, if they're a young DP, it's $2,900. If they're 21 to 23 years old, it's $3,800. So again, the difference in the wage budget and what actually hits your salary cap. So again, it's encouraging you, hey, if you want to sign, like young designated players that are awesome, like you could sign 3 that are all young designated players and pay them a boatload of wage budget money, but their impact on your salary cap would be significantly less, right? There's a thing in MLS called general allocation money and targeted allocation money, and essentially what that allows you to do is it's like this pile of cash that you have that you can pay down a player's impact on your salary cap. Okay, so like if they were gonna, let's go back to the 96.14, and you're like, I don't have 96.14. I've got $5,000 in my a week in my salary cap. Well, you could use that money to pay down the impact of your cap with your targeted or general allocation money. That's just the general concept. Okay. There are 2 types of squad registration slots in the MLS, senior and off budget. Okay, so that is completely different from the rest of Football Manager, where there's key player, first team. We already said that still is there, but when you're talking to MLS, you either have to sign a player on a senior contract or an off budget contract. Okay, players registered on a senior slot will always count towards the salary cap, while off budget players are given an exemption. So that's pretty simple. You can sign players to off-budget contracts, and no matter what you're paying them, it doesn't hit your salary cap, because it's like being a backup. It's not the same in Football Manager as a backup squad status, but the idea is like they're a backup. They're a off-budget player. So designated players and senior contracts may only be registered using a senior slot. Sorry about my cursor. I took a screenshot of the last video. Okay, well, that makes sense. You can't sign a designated player to an off-budget contract, because that would be insane. Okay, players earning the league minimum. So the league, it's just like in other countries where you have to place, if you're signing a player, they have to make whatever, $300 a week or $700 a week or whatever. In MLS, it's $1,297, which is a random amount. I'm sure when you multiply that by 52 weeks, it's probably a round number, because we do stuff by year rather than by week in America. Okay, so players earning the minimum league salary of, let's just call it $1,300 a week, are on a senior minimum salary contract and may be registered either senior or off budget. So you could bring in somebody real cheap, pay them $1,300 a week, and even though you have to pay them a certain amount, that's where the senior minimum salary comes in. But it doesn't mean you have to put them on a senior MLS contract. You could put them on an off budget contract. I don't know why it's called the same thing. Players signed from an MLS club's academy. So clubs are encouraged to have academies, just like in Europe, but it doesn't work the same. But if a player is signed from an MLS club's academy, so DC United's academy, they are categorized as a homegrown player. The idea being you want to get that player to come into your academy when they're 5, they work their way up, and then you have incentive to then buy that player, rather than they could just leave and go play for somebody else, or not, get cut from the academy or something like that. They're incentivizing you to invest in your homegrown players. If they are a homegrown player that you sign, so a DC United Academy youngster that you sign, they remain homegrown until they permanently move to a non-MLS club. So no matter where they end up in MLS, they would always be a DC United homegrown player until, they move to the Championship or Ligue 1 or the Bundesliga or whatever. So, okay, so homegrown players may be registered using either a senior or off-budget slot, just like anybody else. For senior, so again, that, you have to pay them at least $1,297 a week. Players, for senior homegrown players registered as off-budget, going back to the off-budget, the combined difference between their salary cap impact and the minimum salary cap impact is exempt from the salary cap up to a maximum of $4,800 a week. What? Let's read it again. Let's read it again together. For senior homegrown players registered as off-budget. Okay, so let's go back to the off-budget. Off-budget players do not count towards your salary cap. But a senior homegrown player registered as off-budget, the combined difference between their salary cap impact and their minimum salary cap impact is exempt from the salary cap to a mix. So essentially, let's say their salary cap impact is $1,297 because they're on a senior minimum salary contract, would be my guess. And you're paying them $5,000 a week. The difference is exempt. So the whatever that is, up to $4,800 a week. Ha ha. Generation Adidas contracts pay above the senior minimum salary value and are given to the highest rated prospects coming through the draft system. So, okay, so you've got your academy, you've got bringing players in from transfers, you've got your academy players, and then you've got this draft. Okay, so Generation Adidas contracts pay above, and that's a draft contract essentially, pay above senior minimum salary, so above $1,297 a week, and they are always exempt from the salary. I'm going to move this up. They're always exempt from the salary cap and can only be registered using an off-budget slot. So essentially, you can draft a high-rated prospect, pay them more than $1,300 a week because they're coming through the draft. They can only be registered and off-budget, and they're exempt from the salary cap. Okay, so you can pay them more than $1,300. Again, it's encouraging, go find young players and draft them. And if you draft them, you can pay them above $1,300 a week, but it's not going to hit your salary cap, which again, you're trying to keep. It doesn't matter your wage budget. This is all about how much MLS allows you to spend. Reserve contract players are always exempt from the salary cap and can only occupy off-budget slots. Reserve contracts can only be given to players under the age of 25 and come with a maximum length of 2 years, which we kind of saw in the last episode with bringing in some of those draft prospects. You can bring them in on a reserve contract, but they can't be older than 25. It can only be a 2-year or less contract, and they don't hit your salary cap. Okay, so again, you could pay them whatever. You could pay them $4,000 a week, but that's not going to impact your salary cap because it's exempt. Does that make any kind of sense? So I've got this up here. You can have a maximum of 30 players in the team. You can have 3 designated players. We have 1. That's Paul Urilla. You can have 8 internationals, which is non-United States or Canadian because Canada's in MLS. You can have 10 off-budget players. They don't hit your salary cap. You can have 6 reserve players. They don't hit your salary cap. You can have 4 non-homegrown reserve players. So of your 6 reserve players, 2 of them have to be homegrown if you're going to fill them out. You have to have at least 15 players in the squad, and your maximum team salary from a salary cap standpoint is $78,000 a week. Let's hop into FM and see what this looks like. I guess. Oh, Lord, that was 8 minutes. Okay, so this is on the finances screen. League specific. So it shows you this kind of like breaks everything down for MLS. Again, this isn't your wage budget. I'm going to say that a bunch because that I think was the most confusing thing to me is like, but my wage budget is $132,000. I thought it was $115. Or no, we're currently committed to spending $120 and a half. But it's only $78,000. How's that? Again, it's because like our designated player contract, the $20,000 minus $9,000, whatever, call it $10,000. $10,000 of that of Paul Urilla's contract doesn't hit the salary cap. The other players that are on off budget and reserve contracts don't hit the salary cap. So it's only your senior contracts and your designated players and your young designated players that are hitting your salary cap and maybe part of the Generation Adidas, but I don't have any of those. So this kind of breaks it down. It's showing I've got 900 grand in transfer budget. And that's just like anything else. Like you can go buy a player for 900 grand from South America if you want to be Atlanta United and bring them up. We got general allocation money, and we've used, I don't even know if I used this, I can't remember. We've used a bunch. We started at 550,000. You can trade this, although my understanding is FM does a really poor job with trades, even though that's a massive part of, not a massive part, but a not insignificant part of American sports is trading players. Like you might trade a player, and some, it's either targeted allocation money or general allocation money in exchange for the other type of allocation money and transfer funds or something like that. So it shows you that. And again, you can use this to buy down your contracts, which I'll try and show you here in a second. We've got 2 designated player slots. We've got 1 slot available. This is your non-young designated player slots, which is very confusing because this is down here in terms of young designated players contracted by the club. So that's where Paul Urilla comes in. And we've got 4 homegrown players. We have 0 generation Adidas players. So let me, can I show you, can I buy his contract down? Okay, so we got Frederick Brilliant. And his salary cap impact, we're paying him $6,250 a week. It's a senior contract. So none of the off budget, none of the reserve stuff. We're paying him $6,250 a week. So his salary cap impact is $6,250 a week. But we've got 70 grand in general allocation money left. So I could use that. Like if I was really tight on my salary cap and I was trying to bring in another player or something like that, I could try and buy his salary cap impact down using my general allocation money. And that would free up whatever that is, $1,450 that I could, I could sign somebody to a senior minimum salary contract with the money that I just saved myself on a salary cap impact. I'm still spending the money, which is the weird thing, but it enables me to kind of finagle with my salary cap to like buy players' contracts down essentially, and then bring in somebody else, to add to the squad. Okay, so that's Frederick Brilliant. So we're going to cancel that before I hit OK. Let's go take a look at Paul Urilla, just as another example. So he's a key player contract. Again, that's between you and the player. That's their happiness. Hey, you told me I was going to be a key player, boss. You're not playing me, right? Like that's completely different than the MLS side of stuff. So he's getting paid 20 grand a week, but he's 23, so he's technically a young designated player, which means his salary cap impact to us, instead of being 20 grand, if we go back to those rules, was like whatever, $3,900 a week. So that extra $16,000 a week is what has reduced, like that helps make up the difference between our salary cap of 78 grand and our wage budget of 120 grand. So that alone would get, there's my dog barking. I think we have a package getting delivered. Drops our salary cap. Like if everybody else was all hitting the salary cap, that drops our salary cap from 120 to 104, right? And then you take the other things into consideration. I hope that made some kind of sense. I want to address one more thing. I'm so sorry, and then we will review what we've done this far this season, but I felt that was that is probably the most important part of this save, is like understanding how MLS works. It's not, hey, you want to sign a player? Sign him up. You got wage budget? Sure, spend whatever you want. There's rules, again, all tied back to what? Parity. We don't want a team to be able to spend their way to the title like a Real Madrid would. We want Stoke City to be able to get promoted and win the league the next season, right? Like because the salary cap. Okay. I had a question in the comments about DCU Academy. Like, wait, you said you had a chance to sign somebody from your academy, but they're your academy. So I'm going to go back to my browser now, and I'm going to show you something. It's not even on the MLS website very clearly, even though there's like multiple pages of explaining how you can get players. But the New York Red Bulls, like one of the MLS teams, explains how this can be used. So let's go look at that. Okay. All right. Players in the New York Red Bulls Academy will be added to the MLS Homegrown Talent Identification list. We'll talk about that in a second. They can be signed directly to the first team as opposed to entering the draft. Okay. So that's like, why would you sign up for an academy? Well, if you're part of the academy, you don't have to go through the draft to be able to go play for a team. They can sign you directly. Okay, how do you qualify for being part of the academy? It's not just signing up for the academy, because they could sign you up like the day before they want to sign you, right? So all players must reside in a team's home territory for at least 1 year prior to being added to the team's homegrown player list. So each club has like a geographic territory. Some of them are gigantic because the United States is so large that the player must live in that territory for at least 1 year. And then they can be signed up to the, into the academy. And from there, once they are qualified, then they may be added to the MLS Homegrown Talent Identification List. Okay. So that's why, like, if they're part of the academy and the academy, like the academy senior team doesn't want to sign them, I think they go to the super draft. So I don't think they can just be picked up out of the academy like randomly, but I'm not even sure about that. That is the thing this is the MLS website that explains how you acquire players and what the different contracts are. Look at this. Look how long this is. Look how absolutely insanely long this is. I mean, really? Really? That's clear as mud. So that's the part I don't understand, but my guess is, just based on how Football Manager is attacking this, is if you're with the academy and the senior team doesn't want you, I don't know if that makes you a free agent, or if you qualify as homegrown, if another team can sign your homegrown. It's very... I thought that was going to make things more clear, and then I looked at this website, and all of a sudden it was not clear. Let's go look at our season. Okay. Whew. That was a pure joy and bliss. All right, let's just look at our squad here. So you'll notice Patrick Mullins has the most goals with 4, with 6 starts and a sub. But surprising me, like, I don't even have words for it. Cameron Gill, who's on a reserve contract with us, we're paying him a whopping $1,000 a week, has 4 goals and 2 starts and 2 subs. He has done quite the job in putting pressure on Patrick Mullins to do a better job. I'm thrilled with that. Not many assists to our name. Acosta's got 2. Urilla's got 3 with no goals. Zoltan's got 3 goals and 2 assists. I just want to point out that's not very good for our 32-year-old Frenchman that we're paying quite well, and he looks quite good. Just not getting it done. We did have a bit of an injury crisis with our backs. We've kind of had to rotate people around. We've had to play Jalen Robinson, or at least put him on the bench, because he is like... That's one of the things about MLS, is you want to have players that can play in multiple spots. But again, you're balancing that with like the salary cap, because if you got extra wage budget in pretty much any other country, you can just add players, and if you sign them to rotation or backup contracts, they'll just sit on the bench and be happy, right? Or not even on the bench, not even the match day squad. They'll rotate them in every once in a while. But with MLS, you only have a certain number of players you can do that with, and you have to worry about your wage budget. So, yeah. Right, so let's go. Okay. We're in 6th in the conference. Not the best. I mean, it's a playoff spot, potentially. But it's not been great. We're middle of it. I mean, we're meeting expectations, I guess. Like, right? The board is like, yay, you're doing what we asked you to do. Okay. I just think it's hilarious that in real life, Minnesota, Colorado, and New England are not very good. And neither is really... LA Galaxy's kind of struggled, and they are top 4 right now if in the Supporter Shield, which is essentially combining the 2 conference tables together. So they're top of the table, which is hilarious. Right. Okay. Let's go look at our schedule. So I'm not going to necessarily walk through these in great detail, but we beat Real Salt Lake away. We lost to Minnesota at home, which I thought was a big shock because of how they're performing in real life. It turns out they're top of the table. Fair enough. LAFC, we drew away. Exciting game. First half, fantastic. Second half, a bit of a dull, boring game until they equalized, and then I was just mad. Colorado Rapids, which now looks like a great win, 4-1 at home. Cameron Gill with the brace, nice. Seattle Sounders away, that's a big game, right? 2-0, then we lost to NYCFC 4-1, then we lost to Atlanta United 4-1. We beat the Chicago Fire by 1 with a goal in the 3rd minute. And then they had a man sent off in the 50th minute, and we still couldn't get another goal in. I was nervous. Like, we scored in the 3rd minute and did nothing against 10 men for a half. And then Cameron Gill comes in against Montreal Impact and scores a brace. And I want to say Montreal 21st. Yeah, shocking result. They're on 6 points. They're in our conference. Just if we win that game, we're in 2nd place. So it's a very tight table, as you could tell. Again, parity, parity, parity. That's going to be the... I may make a shirt that says... MLS parody. Like, that's all we care about. All right, my friends, I thought we were going to play the Columbus Crew game today. We are not, because, well, this is already a half hour long. So hopefully that made some sort of sense explaining the contracts to you. I'd love your feedback on that, even if you just think it is like the most insane thing on the planet. Again, shout out to my patrons, especially Byron. Oh, I've already forgotten your name. I've just butchered this. Oh no, it's a disaster. Brent, thank you for joining the patronage. I'm going to try and throw something there. Like, we got to 21 with a goal of getting to 40. And if you're a new subscriber, leave a like, hit a comment, say, hey, I'm a new subscriber, and I'd love to know how you found us. For everybody else, hit that like button. The support on the first 2 episodes has been fan-freaking-tastic, and I hope that made sense. I really hope that made sense, because I was doing my best. Doing my best for you people. Here we go. Get in, son. Have a good one.